Welcome, everybody. This is Felix Marquardt, and this is the Black Elephant Experience. Today, it is my great pleasure to welcome Tola Gisanrin, who is speaking to us from the UK. Tola has an incredible trajectory that he's going to tell you all about. Tola, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Felix. Yeah, it's been a minute.
It sure has. It sure has. So, in recent episodes, I've been talking to people about the fact that it looks like our civilization, Western civilization, just doesn't know how to turn children into grown-ups. And I think one of the things that keeps coming back is this idea that our leaders are presented to us as people who've never made mistakes. And as someone who's made a huge number of mistakes myself, I'm very interested in different kinds of people who have, in my humble or admittedly not that humble opinion, shown to me, who've been sort of role models to me, and whose past is quite checkered. Is complex, has been, there's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of ups and downs. And so I'm really excited to have you on because, on paper, some might say that someone who spent an extensive amount of time in prison would not be a good role model. But I can say from the bottom of my heart that I know very few people walking this earth that I find as sort of, just loving, wise people who just, walk this earth that make me want to emulate them. And so, let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us a bit about your journey, and then I'll ask you questions about childhood and what happened, etc. But go ahead, freestyle. You're very good at it.
Well, thank you, Felix, and very, very kind words. My journey, it's interesting, right? Absolutely agree. We have adults living in this house that aren't adults. They couldn't live independently. And a couple of the legacies that my parents left with us, the children, was not that. From a very young age, I was an adult in the house. I was doing stuff. And from a very young age, I kind of skipped childhood in a way, right? I just wanted to do what the adults done, and I didn't really fully understand the stuff. But a good friend of mine used to say that she loved how I was just a free spirit. Yeah, free. It's interesting. Is there ever such a thing? So, I grew up in North London, in Tottenham, and in a Spurs ground was literally a stone's throw from my house. And it was all about football. And the era that I grew up in, football hooliganism was a thing. It was real. It was real. Very young, there were sides that we chose. That's where my understanding of gangs and tribes came from, right? So, we used to get involved in all of the things that around football, chasing other football players, or not players, but supporters, and the combat between the two, which is hilarious because I'm not really into football, but the tribe, I got that. I got that. That was something that I could get down with, just being with a group, with a gang. Everyone was on a shared purpose. And I guess that was my first understanding of connection, right? So Yeah, we used to get into that football. Football matches were crazy days. Never stepped a foot in Tottenham Hotspur's football ground. But out of the ground, it was all about colours. It was the blue, yeah, the blue and the white, and our team was always the best team. And if you weren't with our team, there was going to be problems. And that was just a social aspect, that was a social aspect. So Tottenham, we were poor, relatively. And, if I wanted things, like I had to find a way to support that. Too young to work. I weren't on the agenda anyway, but some kind of work was, and I got involved in the criminal element of things in and around, Tottenham and Greater London. At quite a young age, I discovered a range of substances. I noticed that they'd done something to my brain. I chose the artist route, right? That they quieted my mind and enabled me to have some kind of creativity. I don't know how true that was, but yeah, that was interesting. And that kind of started, I don't know, like 30, 40 years of a range of addiction, be it with substances or behaviors or absolutely actions, fueled by a range of criminal activities, from importing, exporting, dealing, and part of the violent part, around banks and building societies and enforcing and just all of that stuff. Yeah, it was just, I think I found a way out. I found a way out of what I believed then the mundane. And I created an economy that worked really well for me.
How old were you? How old were you when you first went to jail or prison?
So I got to the institutions quite late. I was 19.
Okay.
Many of my friends started real young. Like they were still in school, like 14, 15, 16. Yeah, I was 19. So I was still young enough. I was young enough.
And then you went in and out for how long?
So I spent over 18 years behind the door, range of sentences. And,
Right.
I remember the first time that I was remanded, I was terrified. I didn't know anything about the system.
Sure.
All I knew was what I saw on the telly. So I believed that, I had to kill someone. Otherwise I'll be someone else's girlfriend. And I went, none of that. That was terrifying. And I will say that those institutes, I guess they work for some people, but not guys like me. Guys like me that are from the ends, from the hood, like, nah. So I came out the next day, didn't know what to expect, and behind the canteen where they were serving up breakfast were all my mates that I hadn't seen for a while. Where have you been? This is where you've been. And they were like, T, what are you doing here? Told them, they said, listen, it's cool. We will show you how this place rolls. We got this on lock. I said, okay, cool. I had arrived. Right? I had arrived. And, from then moving forward, it was just, I guess it was similar to being in a boarding school without any teachers. we made the rules and we walked the line, you know, in between the rules of the institution and our rules. We walked that line and we created stuff. We created stuff and made stuff happen. And it's, you know, I look back over my history, and then times that I was in some of the young institutions, the young offenders institutions, and they were crazy. They were crazy. They had officers. And what some of the officers done, they used to put warring fractions of guys together, you know, like black and white, Asian and racist, in the same cell, and they had this gladiator thing. So they would bet on these guys fighting. And I mean, you know, they, in a few years, that stopped because they got caught and they faced charges for that. But, you know, that was the bubble that I was in. So much like,
Wow.
you know, our peers who we looked up to set the rules, this is the example. Yeah, let's create gladiator fights.
So yeah, that sounds just completely insane. So a lot of people think like that when you're doing drugs and you go to prison, you might be in a place where you can't do drugs anymore. I remember several. Yeah.
Hilarious. I hear some people share stuff like that. So when I went to prison, I'd use it as a detox. I was like, why? Like, firstly, I don't have to pay for anything because people are just giving me all of the stuff. Like, if they don't, I'll find a way in. It will either come in through the window or through an officer would pay them because we've done that. It's definitely coming in. I've got no concerns. I don't have to worry about rent. That's being paid for. Food, that's being paid for. And anyway, I can sell some of this in here and create my own economy. That's just what happened. Like, yeah, no.
So basically you find yourself in prison and you're just using even more. It's like even easier in a way than it was before, right?
Even easier. Like, if it was absolutely, it was either one of my friends was serving up or one of my friends' friends. I was in that circle. I couldn't escape it, even if I wanted to, and I didn't want to. Not at that time. It took a while before that happened. You know, there was no escape.
And so how did you find your way out of addiction in prison? How did it, like, what happened? And maybe I remember that one of the powerful moments for you, I mean, it was sort of a journey. There were a number of elements. So before we get to the moment where you sort of found your way out, I think first we should go to the moments of utter despair that you went through. Among others, when you lost your dad.
Yeah, we lost Dad first. And so this was the last time. So the last time I went into prison, yeah, it's funny because I say that I didn't want to go. I never wanted to go there. No, at some point I had counseling, and the counselor would say, yeah, that they call, she was like, do you know what they call the prison? They call it the iron womb, right? Because it's comforting. People like to go there because it meets some of their needs. That was not my story. I never wanted to go there. It restricted me from doing what I wanted to do. Like, yeah, I could create an economy, but this is not going to create what I want. I wanted to create something big outside.
Right.
And so, yeah, my dad wasn't well. My mum wasn't well. My mum was, she had been diagnosed with memory loss.
Right. Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's, yeah. And my dad, he had been diagnosed with some kind of, it was like a blood cancer, you know, it weren't leukemia, but it was some kind of blood cancer. And my great plan was that I was going to become a carer for them stuck in my guilt and shame, thinking that I could do something honest and helpful and nourish them and wholesome for them and do this, even though I was stuck in the depths of addiction. Like, that was never going to happen ever. And I got arrested for some serious charges. And unfortunately, I got fortunately, we got guilty for it. And that was the beginning of it for me. Like, mentally, psychologically, I was just like, I'm in a place where I don't want to be. I've got this ridiculously long sentence, and my mum and dad are ill out there. Fortunately, I've got siblings. I've got brothers and sisters who are just straight up. Like, my history, my background, like, I wasn't the average person in jail, the average criminal. All of my family are professionals. They all study, they all have different kinds of degrees, and they have their own businesses and they do really well. Like that, I was that's interesting. I was intelligent, I had qualifications, and we were driven to educate ourselves. Like, education for me was a pleasure. I loved learning. So here I am. And my dad, so before my dad passed away, I had a moment of clarity. Like, I was in a cell. I had a mobile phone, which obviously you're not supposed to have, topped up with as much credit as I could have on it. And it was coming up to Christmas. And like, whatever I had was just not enough. Like, I had some kind of cannabis, which it was just not strong enough to quiet my mind, my mental head. And I was phoning people. Like, no one wanted to talk to me. It's like, Tola, like, no, like, I don't want to talk to you, man. Like, what, you're in that place again, just get a life. And I was so angry. And at that point, like, people talk about religious, that I'm absolutely not religious. And, when we talk about higher powers and God, it's not something that I bought into. But I said a quiet prayer to a God that I didn't understand. I said, please, God, help me. I cannot do this. And, pretty soon after that.
It's funny how the first prayer of many people who are not religious is actually just, I can't.
Yeah.
Funny that. Like, it's actually, that's all it is I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
I can't. Can you do something for me? Right?
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And, I met very, very lovely man. He was a gay Church of England priest. And straight away when I heard that, I was like, that's interesting. Because what I know about religion is that Christianity and homosexuality is not a thing. And, we got on really well. Like, I knew that he would understand my stance, around racism and discrimination, absolutely. And, I looked to him, I heard him, and he suggested some altruistic things, which I never took on board before, ever. He said, look, why don't you try helping people? He saw something in me, right? And he said, why don't you try helping people for no expense? I was like,
well, I have to say, yeah, I remember it. That to me was the just the most amazing discovery. It was this idea of doing something for people and not letting them or anyone else know about it.
Right.
And I thought at first, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever in my life. I mean, most of the time I don't do shit for anyone else. Very rarely I'll do stuff for others, But if I do that, you're gonna hear about it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and you're gonna pay me very well for it. Like, what, you want advice from me? Yeah, I'm gonna charge you.
and and I remember that sort of. So it came at such a shock, and then I tried, and that was another moment of like another revolution for me, because when I tried, I realized that I got something out of not telling anyone that I had never expected would happen. You know, I felt like, wow, and suddenly I understood, like, I'm actually going to earn self-respect this way.
Yeah, yeah. The first time I'd done it, I got this unbelievable feeling. It was like a warmth inside. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is that? And like any respectable addict, I was like, okay, I want some more of that. I'm gonna do that again. And so I started practicing that as a way of life. But it's difficult. It's difficult. Like, I'm a gang leader, right? I'm a gang leader. The police, they turned me someone's lieutenant. Like, if you want something done, seek me out, pay me first, and I'll do it. It's done. Job's done. Like, that's me, and so I'm stuck in this place. I got this reputation and I'm helping people for nothing, and I've got all the gang around me. I was like, nah, I need to separate myself from these lunatics, because I am a certified lunatic. I don't need any other lunatic to validate my lunacy, right? I need to stay away from them.
No, totally. But so I want to sort of just go back before we move forward, because I think this is a really important moment. So there was this moment where you sort of realized no one wanted to talk to you outside, and you had that prayer. But there was also a moment where you had to live through the experience of not being able to properly say goodbye to your dad because you were in prison, and I remember it was not even supposed to happen that way, right? It was the result of some administrative cock up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, so the truth is, we don't know. Like, I get it, because they turned me as this dangerous person, which I was, and so it's.
So what happened exactly? What happened exactly? Tell us the story of that.
Tim. So Angus left and Tim took over, and I'm still.
Angus is the homosexual priest from the Church of England.
Yeah. And then Tim took over, and Tim, beautiful guy, ex copper, right? Like, he thought it. He was up there. He was an inspector, and a beautiful man, beautiful guys, and if God can show himself in these guys, who for me was like almost a total opposite, like, I could see a way forward, and so I had a conversation with Tim. He said, yeah, that my dad was dying, he's in hospital, and they're gonna get me to the hospital before he dies. All right, cool. This was on a Friday, and I was expected to go on the Saturday. And then on the Saturday, they said, no, it's not happened. Then he died. Then on the Monday, Tim said, well, actually, it had been authorized, but there was an administrative error. So it looked like it wasn't. And yeah, it was.
Wow.
I don't even think that it was much of a thing for me, in that, I was still in guilt and shame. in a place where, okay, you know, actually this is part of the consequences of my actions. Like I shouldn't have been involved in that thing anyway. And here I am, another loss. And I, you know, I did manage to go to the wake to see him in his coffin, which was, yeah.
How long had you not spoken to him at that point?
I mean, probably a couple of weeks. Like I spoke to him quite regularly. You know,
Okay.
I made a commitment. I think that the only reason that I kept a mobile phone then, because I made a commitment to just to disband all my criminality, to cut myself off from all of these guys. But like the mobile phone was the last bit of dishonest thing that I had, really.
Right.
And I justified that with I need to stay in contact with, at least with my dad. So, you know, I could show up in that way and stay connected with him. So I spoke with him quite regularly, but I hadn't seen him for a while because he couldn't visit because it's too far and he was too ill. And so he was still, you know, partly looking after mum.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened next in your journey towards sort of getting off drugs and alcohol? What was the next? I think wasn't it about Charlene?
No, it was another ex. No, so Charlene was one of my people that I work with, but I was an ex-partner. I can't remember her name. Oh, Kate. Oh my goodness, Kate. It's hilarious. So I started going to meetings, right? I didn't know anything about 12-step or anything. I was just like, what I knew.
So how do you end up in a AA meeting or whatever 12-step it was?
So check this out. So I didn't believe I had a problem with alcohol or drugs. Like my problem was I kept getting on that recurring trip back to institutions, right? That's my problem. But Kate, I believe Kate was an alcoholic. So I wanted to find a way to help her drink responsibly. And what I heard was they do that stuff in AA. Like, what do I know about AA, right? Or any of the fellowships? Nothing. Only what they do on the telly. So I'd show up and I'd introduce, my name's Tola, like, not like you guys, like I'm just here just to have a look, right?
It's funny, I should interrupt you. Like, it's funny how my experience of watching like 12-step fellowship stuff in movies is they always get it wrong. Almost always. I mean, maybe there's like a microsecond where it's sort of quite accurate.
But most never right. It's always
never.
Never like that. I was thinking, that's not what happened.
But it's funny. And then the other thing that came to mind is the fact that it's amazing the number of people who end up going to 12-step fellowships, you know, which is the generic name for meetings of the kind that AA is. Who come in not for themselves. They come in to help someone else. It's so funny how like we come in and we go, hey, I'm here to help so-and-so. I'm here for a friend. And it's funny because anyone who's been there for a while knows that no one ever comes in really for a friend, or hardly ever, right? And so it's
certainly not from the offset. So I honestly believed. I wasn't making that up. I believed that I was, you know. But what happened? So what happened? I mean, a couple of things happened. One thing that happened was when I went to this meeting. Like I saw like hardcore villains, like sheer and honestly. And I hadn't been around honesty. Like, honesty's attractive, right? Being real is attractive. And I just felt safe. I was like, oh my God, like, really? Like, I'm not like these guys, but there's a vibration here that is beautiful. And I want more of this. I want to cut. This is a safe place. I can come here. Right. And that's what I done. I kept coming. But I had to go to I went to another fellowship, right, to get some identification. And that's, that's what it's about. I need to believe. First, I want proof and evidence, because I'm factual, I'm logical, right? I come from my family are scientists, right? I want some proof. And the other thing is, I need to believe that I'm like you. So,
Right.
I'm not, I wasn't,
Identification.
yeah. People do this thing about, what's your drug of choice? Like, the most that you got, like that, like whatever that works, and the most of it. Like, I'm not mired or anchored to one particular thing. Like, why would I'm jack of all trades. I'm hands in. Like, whatever you got and as much as you can get of it, that's my drug of choice. Yeah. And, when we start to understand about powerlessness, there's not a choice. There's not a choice. A choice isn't involved in that statement. Like, powerlessness. Okay, drug of choice. That assumes I have a choice in the matter. I ain't. Because I used when I didn't want to. And when I wanted to stop, I couldn't.
Yeah. You often speak about that, like, people think that addiction is about doing too much, when actually it's more accurately, there's so many ways to look at it, but one of them is like addiction to alcohol or drugs is about the phenomenon of craving. And that is something that you described really well.
Yeah. And, in all of the literature, there's some really good explanations of it. The doctors have looked into it, and it is the thing that separates an addict from the average or heavy user. Like,
Yep.
I'd turn up to an alcohol meeting, and I hear people say, yeah, I have a drink, and as soon as I have a drink, I want more drink. And that's not what happened with me. I turn up, I have a drink, and my next thought is I need some drugs right now.
Yeah.
Like, now.
Yeah.
I'm a dealer. So I've got drugs. All my friends have got drugs. I'm straight away, I'm on it. And that confused me. That confused me for a long time. I was like, okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. And then I heard about the phenomenon of craving. I was like, okay, because it's something that I noticed, during my using. I noticed that I knew that if I had a drink, that if I didn't have a drink, that I'd be, I'd feel quite anxious, and I'd have that feeling internally that I need to do something, but I just don't know what it is, right? But if I had that drink, I knew without a doubt that my next call would be for some drugs. I knew that was absolutely going to happen.
It's funny because I could say that, like, I'm pretty sure that I could do, like, today, if I had a drink. I haven't had a drink or a drug in 12 years, but if I had a drink today, there's a chance, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a chance that I would have a drink and then I would go to bed. I wouldn't have a second, or etc. But from there on, there would be a question mark in my mind every second of every minute of every hour of every day for the rest of my life about having, and then what would happen is I would have it.
Exactly.
And then the next thing that would happen, whether it's in a week or a month, is I would wake up the next day. Yeah, I would wake up the next day and I will have had 5 grams of Coke, and I'll wake up in a bed with people I don't know. And yeah, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And there would be, there would be shit on the walls, and there would be like bottles of vodka everywhere. And that's the thing that I know, that's what I know. That's what craving for me is.
Because the important part of all of that is so Joe Bloggs, he can just have a couple of drinks, right? Yeah, I don't want a couple of drinks. I want to just keep on
be trashed.
Drinking.
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah, I want oblivion. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm after.
Yeah.
That's what I'm after.
So, I don't want to get like, I often feel like misunderstood, because some people are not so vocal about their journeys in addiction, etc. I let most people, I'm very open about the fact that I took drugs every day for 25 years, some form or fashion. And people often think that now my shtick is to be like, everyone should be abstinent, and which is not. Like, it really isn't. Like, I'm pretty sure that if I weren't an addict, if I could do like a couple joints here and there, and a couple grams of Coke every 6 months, I probably would. I just can't go there, like,
So
and I don't.
The thing.
Go ahead.
The thing was, I must interrupt you there, because the thing about that statement is, when you're alive to life, you don't need to do any of that stuff. I think the thing for me is, I paid for a room in hell for a very, very long time, right? When they let me out of hell, like, just breathing air is such a gift. Life is difficult, right? It comes with its ups and downs, but I'm alive to life today. Like, I'm present. I notice. I try as much as I can to live in the now, because this stuff is just beautiful. We're only here for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Why would I mar that? I don't want to blot it out. I don't even want to blur it. I want it just fresh. Beautiful.
No, I'm 100% with you. Like, I have zero, like absolutely zero desire to use in any form. Like, I don't want to be a bore. That's all. I don't want to be like, I just don't want people to think that I think the only way to live is the way I live. But I'm super, I feel like, I have this gift, which is I really thought that I couldn't live without drugs, that I couldn't do it, Exactly. And then I realized, actually, one day someone told me, you don't ever have to do drugs again. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's not have to. It's not, no, it's not have to. It's like, I want them, like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then eventually I understood, like, no, I think that I want them, but I don't actually fucking want them at all.
Yeah.
But so what I was getting at is I sort of want to, I don't want to sort of be like, I just don't want this conversation to feel preachy. I'm just saying, like, for me, it's pretty incredible that we've come to this place where it got so fucking dark that we can live where we are now. It's a real gift. Maybe like one last, tell us about what happened when you quit and you understood that it wasn't just about not doing drugs or alcohol, that it was about changing the way you were in the world. What happened then, and how you got out of prison? Because that wasn't part of the plan either.
This would be that's a whole nother episode.
Of course.
So
Of
that's a
course.
whole other episode. I mean, it's it's a journey. It's a journey, right? And it's like, and you're right. It's like, so it's not just about. It's not even. It's not just about. It's not even about the
Really about that. Yeah.
right? It's about how I think, the decisions I make, and the actions, my behaviors. Like, what do I do? And it's just a constant journey. Like every day, it's a beautiful journey of learning how I can manage life apart from myself. Like not putting Tola at the center of the world. Okay, I have a problem with them. Actually, it's a matter of perception. It's like if I stand on the line over there, I'm the problem because I'm not accepting stuff, or like I'm rooted in my ways. I want to control the whole situation, and really, they got a better plan than me. I'm just stuck thinking that I know it all. So how about I give their thinking a chance? It's just the little things, and it's constant. It just keeps on. Every time I think I know it all, like I've learned I do not know it all. Because every time I thought I know it all, I get to the end, like, I walk to the end of the room and there's a wall in front of me. That's it. I'm at the end. Like I hear a voice in my head. It says, put your arms out and push. And it's not a wall, it's a door. And the door opens, right? And I've got another corridor to walk down. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I didn't know all of this existed. And I walk and I walk and I walk and I get to the wall again. And like, right, I've done it. I've won. Like I'm at the end, like I know it all. And I hear that voice again. It says, put your arms out and push. It's another door. And I could just keep on walking. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff's mental. This stuff is mental.
How long was it between the moment when you quit and you started living differently and the moment when you were actually told that you could walk and get parole and, just have a different, get out of actual prison?
Well, it's like, so it's mental. So, I got myself to an open prison, and I got a job, and I had done with the government and the government services and, probation and all of that. Like, you lot just keep on doing stuff and I'm not happy about it. And I'm not doing anything wrong. And it's your guys' fault because you're not providing me with what I need to do to move forward. So I'm practicing my program, right? I'm not using, I'm just showing up. I'm like, okay, look, I'm walking in a system. I'm walking in my lines in this system. I'm taking no notice of them, but actually the guidelines that I'm in are well within their system, right? So I'm going to meetings, I'm taking meetings, I'm working outside. I'm helping a host of men in this place. Like, they go through rehab and they half cut it, and then I pick them up and I continue to help them. And I don't even recognize that I am this elder. People are looking up to me, like they know about my history. Like, oh yeah, T, like, yeah, he's from the end and blah, blah and whatnot, and look what he's doing. I'm not taking no notice of this because I'm focused. I'm just narrow vision. I'm just moving forward. My probation come up to see me and he said, look, before we get into this, I just want to congratulate you and recognize all the work that you've been doing. And I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was close to tears, right? I was close to, like, he had seen me. Like, I forgot that I'm in a system that notices everything, that logs everything. They watch all your behaviors and what you're doing. Like, I'm taking no, I've ruled them out of my life. Like, nah, it's not about them. I'm just doing me. And And he just lifts me up, just continues to support me. I was okay, cool. You know, I went for parole, boom, got parole, got out, I just kept moving. I was just, oh my God, thank you. Because all of this is a gift, you know, and I've got one directive, and that's to share this gift with others so they too can live. You don't have to be caged. It's just a waste.
I mean, when we met, I had only a couple years, not even, I think I had just over 2 years in recovery. I was a fucking nut job. You know, people think often that when you quit drugs, you get like, you're sort of very rapidly, you get better. And my experience wasn't that at all. I feel like the first years of my recovery, or first years without drugs and alcohol, were probably the most insane in my life, because I was still completely bonkers, but without my meds, you know,
exactly.
without the state, and without the stabilizing effect of the drugs, which were, you know, that's what you learn in recovery, is that actually when you're drugging, you're medicating, you're self-medicating. But so when we met, you were already you had a few years under your belt, more than I did, and you were already cooking. You were a chef, and you were also helping a lot of people get clean, and that's still a big part of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one directive, and that's just to help others. You know, that thing that Angus taught me like years ago, just help someone. Don't charge them, don't tell no one about it, just do it. And it's real, you know, it's real. I'm not looking for no pay. I'm not looking for no ego boost. I definitely don't need that.
And so the question that people will ask is, yeah, that sounds great in a movie, right? But how the fuck do you make a living? I mean, you need to pay your rent. How do you pay your food? So tell us, how do you do that?
I work. I work. I do an almost 9 to 5, right? And
but even in your work, you're helping people, right?
Yeah, that much is true. We work in a trauma-informed way, trauma-informed practice, and you know, we get to understand people and connect with them. Like, you know, from a young child, I've been taught how to connect with tribes. You know, went into an institution where I would have, I don't know, like 10 different people living with me in a week. You know, very soon when you're locked in close confinement with someone, you learn how to connect with people, because this is do or die, right? It's dangerous. And it's constant, you know, it's constant. And then we continue to connect, and then we get clean and we connect some more. And it's not about us, it's the spirit within us, right? It's all of that stuff. So, you know, I get to know people. So I just try my best, practice some patience and tolerance, because, wow, you know, some people are just as crazy as I am. And just listen. Yeah, just listen and work with them. Yeah.
So I want to spend the last few minutes that we're together talking about the elephant in the room, which is the fact that people often see me with that logo on their shirt, on my shirt. And today you have it. And it's not by chance. It's because we started Black Elephant together. And I don't know how you tell the story of that sort of magical creature. What I usually say is, during the pandemic, a small group of people with sort of complicated stories got together and started realized that while everyone else, because of confinement, was sort of really struggling to connect, we discovered that we had this kind of magical power or superpower of sorts that allowed us to connect in depth with other people by, as you said earlier, by getting real, you know?
Yeah.
Like honesty is it's a rare commodity these days, you know? And it's really interesting because honesty, and I often called it vulnerability, is which was the currency that we traded in.
Yeah.
What's amazing is that it's very contagious. So, you know, I've seen a lot of people come into Black Elephant when we gathered, and they were like, yeah, I'll check it out, but, you know, like, I'm not really into sharing my feelings, and certainly not with people I don't know. And I'll always remember that on one of the parades that we did together, we called them parades because it's a pack of wolves, a flock of geese, but it's a parade of elephants. That's the technical term. So we would gather 10, 12 people. And I remember at first, you'll remember, we called it Humans Anonymous. This is pretty great.
Yeah.
Anyway, after a while, we were like, okay, let's find a better name. And I'll always remember this. So we were on Zoom one day, and there were a bunch of people, and I brought in some people from my former world of politics, and you know, big names, and so among the people on the parade was a guy who was then the opposition leader of Malaysia, and now he's the prime minister of Malaysia. And you shared, I think that we were asked sort of to talk about a moment. The question that we asked everyone was, remember a moment where you went through like utter despair, and how did you get back on the horse of life, basically? And you told your story about your dad, about sort of going through that thing where you couldn't be at the funeral. And I will never forget that I saw Anwar, like, he was probably reserved until then, but he decided to share the same, and he told us the exact same story as you. He was imprisoned on political charges, and he was not able to attend the funeral of his dad. And when I saw that, like, what the elephant had done that day, I was like, this is fucking gold. And the world really needs this. Like, we need this so badly. So yeah, I'm sorry. I pretended that I had a question, and then I just, you know, blah blah. But I'd like you to tell me how you described the experience of being one of the people that brought the elephant into the world.
Wow. So this is a spiritual journey, right? And I often say to people, you have to experience it. Like, yeah, we talk about it, but it's an experiential happening. Like, you have to experience it. And you know, it's much like you said, we share vulnerability because it's attractive. Like, you use the word contagious, right? It's attractive. Like, being real in this world of dishonesty and falseness, like, it's a thing. And yeah, it's something you have to experience. So we break bread. The early days, we break bread, we talk stories, we break bread, you know, we share like drink and bread, and we share stories, and we ask difficult questions that you don't usually talk about. You know, we talk about stuff, death, life, you know, like, what you most ashamed of, like, what have you done? You know, and we identify with some of those feelings of shame and guilt and remorse and pain and honesty. As human beings, we share this journey, like, you know, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it is. I think, like, you know, we tried doing it publicly, and it didn't work. It was very interesting. Like it's something that needs to happen in like privately in intimacy.
You say that, right?
Yeah.
But that's interesting. But the truth of the matter is that we have made connections with all of these people, you know, when they came to Patmos with us, like no matter where we are in the world, when we see them, we have a bond that is
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. I didn't mean publicly like that you can't connect with people you don't know. What I'm obviously what I meant is that we tried recording it and putting it out on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it just there was something that was, you know, the like people need to know that they can say whatever it happened, whatever they have to say, and it stays between the people who are there.
Yeah. That's important.
And yeah. And so anyway, I want to say to viewers that if this feels like something that they'd like to try, they can let us know in the chat or find a way of reaching out to us. People can find us, and
We're not hiding anymore.
Yeah, we're not hiding anymore, and I haven't done a parade in a while, and I miss it. So come and do one with Tola and me one of these days. Just let us know, and we'll organize one. How about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get Abdi to join and the gang. Yeah, the other thing before as we leave, I just want to say also that one of the things that inspired the elephant was the work of Gabor Mate. And when we came together as a community with people from all around the world for the first time, it was on an island in Greece named Patmos. And as we started the 3-day gathering, we found out that Gabor was on the island, and he came and joined the parade. It was so unreal. So anyway, you know, we make things sacred by the way we treat them. Is one of the things that I've learned in recovery, and that the elephant has reminded me of always. And so, you know, meeting up today for the first time in a while, Tola, feels like a sacred moment. I'm really grateful to have had you today. And yeah, let's do this parade soon.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
One love, brother.
Thank
you so much.